Besama ab wel weld me feskedus aduam la amen. Besama ab wel weld me feskedus aduam la amen. Besama ab wel weld me feskedus aduam la amen. Good morning, blessed love, on this Saturday, Sabbath. So, on with the reading straight away. Exodus chapter 13. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Sanctify to me all the firstborn, whatever opens the womb amongst the children of Israel, both of man and animal. It is mine." Moses said to the people, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought you out from this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today you go out in the month of Abib. It shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and in the 7th day shall you feast to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout the 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen with you. No yeast shall be seen with you within all your borders. You shall tell your son in that day, saying, It is because of that which Yahweh did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall be a sign for you on your hand, for a memorial between your eyes, that Yahweh's law may be in your mouth. For a strong hand Yahweh has brought you out of Egypt. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. It shall be when Yahweh brings you into the land of the Canaanite, and he swore to you and to your fathers, and will give it to you, that you shall set apart to Yahweh all that opens the womb, and every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have. The male shall be Yahweh's, and the firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, and you will not redeem it. Then you shall break its neck, and you shall redeem all the firstborn of man amongst your sons. It shall be when your son asks you in a time to coming, saying, What is this? That you shall tell them, By strength of hand Yahweh brought you out of Egypt, from the house of bondage. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, Yahweh killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both firstborn of man and the firstborn of livestock. Therefore I sacrifice to Yahweh all that opens the womb, being males, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall be for a sign of your hand, and for symbols between your eyes, for by strength of hand Yahweh brought us out of Egypt." When Pharaoh had let the people go, God didn't lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, Lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war, and they return to Egypt. And God led the people around the way of the wilderness by the Red Sea. The children of Israel went up armed out of the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the children of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you. You shall carry up my bones away from here with you. They took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Etham, at the edge of the wilderness. Yahweh went before them by day in a pillar of cloud and led them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light, that they might go day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night didn't depart them before the people. Give thanks, blessed love, yet a berek for cure. So, quite a is following on from previous chapter, from yesterday's chapter, where God's establishing some of the traditions that still continue today in terms of the eating of unleavened bread, and eating that unleavened bread in remembrance that the people of Israel had to flee Egypt. But then there's this other covenant which is about the observation, the consecration of the firstborn son of human or livestock. I'm going to sneeze, I think. No, it's gone. It might be there still. And the consecration means kind of set apart for God. So it's kind of recognizing that when when there was the fight between God and Pharaoh, and then when God then, did that plague in terms of every firstborn in the land will be killed, but the people of Israel should be slaved. So setting aside for God and consecrating the firstborn for God, it's what it's showing is that actually, God saved the people of Israel and giving thanks for the firstborn, that human sacrifice is no longer required. So the firstborn was set aside for God. When the firstborn was born, they would go to the temple, and then the parents would give an offering to the temple as a thanks for the firstborn. So it'd be money, silver, it'd be might be livestock itself, or another offering to the temple to give thanks for the firstborn. And that's in remembrance that their firstborn was saved during the time of when they were in Egypt. So it's a symbolic gesture. And I don't personally know whether that's still continued within the Jewish tradition. I'll look that up. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I think it's a beautiful gesture anyway, not even for the firstborn, but for any children that are born, that when the parents are in faith, that they offer something to the temple or the church. I think that's actually a tradition that it'd be lovely to see, even if it doesn't necessarily continue. And I guess one-to-ones can do that on an individual basis, but actually I think that's quite a beautiful thing. And then in terms of later in the chapter, it talks about how God directed the children of Israel the long route to the land of Canaan, rather than going through the land of Philistine, which would have been a shorter route. And it talks about how going through the shorter route through Philistine actually might have created conflict, because the people of the Philistine area may have then, declared war on the Israelis, and there'd have been conflict. So he took them the wilderness route by the way of the Red Sea, which might not have made sense to the people, but actually made sense in the eyes of God, because he had a bigger strategy and he wants peace for his people. So again, God's wisdom might not always look what feels logical in human eyes, but there's a bigger kind of plan at work. And then by the end of it, God is leading the people by day. There's a cloud of light, a pillar of cloud, and then by night there's a pillar of fire. So God's presence was with them, guiding them, lighting the path throughout that journey, really. So it's quite a gentle chapter, quite a beautiful chapter, and re-establishing that relationship between God and his people, but also for the people to do certain things in remembrance of him, like I say, in terms of the consecration and the offering to the temple. When Jesus was born, Mary and Joseph took Jesus to the temple for the consecration, to give an offering to the temple. So we know that this is a tradition that's still continued in New Testament times as well. So yeah, I won't draw it out any further in terms of the reasoning. I think it's quite a beautiful chapter. I think quite a gentle chapter, after we've seen lots of destruction and death from previous chapters, but it's one where people are trusting in God, and God's creating a safe space, to use that common term, for the people of Israel to get a safe passage back to their promised land. And Moses is taking the bones of Joseph with him, which was promised. Joseph wanted to be buried back in his native country, of his land, country of his birth, and Moses is honouring that by taking the bones back. And bearing in mind, this is 400 years later, kind of thing. So over time, these promises are still being recognised, fulfilled, remembered, and honoured in the name of the Most High. So give thanks, blessed love, have a blessed Sabbath, and God willing, more tomorrow. One love.